Skill of answer writing. So the very first thing, so as per the research, so when it comes to the scoring area, so the static areas are scoring more. So that we are very familiar with, because the static area there are the factual aspects. So when there are factual aspects, when you put through the factual aspects, there are high chances of getting more marks. And also in this static area, we have the physical and the biological anthropology. So when you're talking about the physical and biological anthropology, we can actually draw many pictures in that, which is an additional advantage for us. So please make sure you answer at least 250 markers from the physical and biological anthropology, so that our score can be better. And at the same time, so from the paper 2, Indian social system as well as the prehistory in the paper 2, so these are the two areas where we are having the most, we have more chances of scoring. So other than this, so make sure how to structure the board, structure the questions. So when we have written many mains test series, we have already understood introduction, body, and conclusion. These are the three important areas for any question for that matter. But for an optional and the general studies, the way we write an answer varies, because general studies in generally we write. But when it comes to the optional, so we specify a few aspects, because when you're talking about the introduction, the definition, right? So definition is extremely important, and along with the definition, so we have to give the thinker or the anthropologist who have given the definition, and also from which book they have actually, in which book they have actually given this particular definition. So these aspects actually rules out our answer to be the best among the other. So we have better chances, because we are very well aware that the professors actually correct the papers. So when the professors are actually correcting the papers, they'll be looking at these nuances on these aspects. So how specific our answer is. So whether we are taking additional interest in making our answer better, or knowing the concept better, or we are just reading it for the syllabus purpose. So this is one thing which actually separates our answer from the rest, and which actually can lead to few more additional marks, which can actually be a bigger difference from when it comes to the clearing the mains. So the definitions are extremely important, and make sure your definitions are perfect. And also always mention along with the definition who has given that definition, because when you're talking about the definitions of culture, so many people have given the definitions of culture, but when it comes to the Taylor, he was the first person who have given the definition of culture, right? So in a specific holistic way, right? So these kind of definitions, when you're talking about the marriage, so what social institution, so how, what are the definitions of marriage? So all these definitions are extremely important, and what are the, who is the anthropologist who have given that particular definition, right? And along with the definition, right? So this is one thing. This is one other example which I have given. So this is for the definitions. So when this kind of a question is asked, discuss hypergamy with the help of ethnographic examples. So definitely we'll have to give the definitions of hypergamy and the hypogamy by default, right? And differentiate between the race and racism. So obviously we can actually see here. So I have given two different definitions, right? So according to Dovansky, race can be defined as a group of population which are reproductively isolated to the extent that exchange of genes between them is absent or low, that genetic differences are not diminished or swam. And the other definition which I could give is race is defined as a group of people having distinctive morphology and genetic traits. So when you look at these two definitions for the race, so definitely the more marks will be given to the first one compared to that of the other, because the second one is more generalistic, whereas the first one is more specific, and we have given the anthropologist's name, right? So the make sure your answer will be in that specific way. Okay. And the next one, while answering, the keywords are extremely important. So keywords are extremely important when you come to the physical anthropology part. So most people are not so familiar with that aspect, because it will be new for the non-biology people. But still it is not so difficult, right? Because we have been studying anthropology for quite a very long time. So these technical terms which we have, or the keywords which we have, so that has to be incorporated. We cannot just generally put forth the concepts. So when you're talking about intersex, right? gynandromorph or hermaphrodite, pseudo-hermaphrodite, mutations, deletions, or when you're talking about the chromosomal abnormalities, so 21st trisomy. So what the trisomy, or we cannot really tell that as in the 21st chromosome, there will be 3 copies of genes. So rather than entire thing, we have to put 21st trisomy, right? So autosomal aberration or the allosomal aberration. So the sex link or somatic. So these kind of keywords are extremely important. And when it comes to the body, so when you're talking about the body, so here try to interlink different concepts, right? That is one thing. And also you will have to give the examples which we have as well as the case studies, right? And when you're giving the case studies, make sure your case studies are not covering the entire answer, right? So you have to give the case studies not extending to 1/4 of your answer. So in that way, you please structure your answer. And case studies are extremely important. Case studies are extremely important in paper 2. So these case studies, when you're focusing on these case studies or examples, make sure you give the examples of Indian societies as well, or Indian tribes. So you can take the community from elsewhere, it is fine. But when you're looking at the Indian tribes, obviously it kinds of feels that we are looking at our present day society. So you're looking at the Indian society, all right? So in that way, when you're talking about the body, right, then make sure you give a little of interlinking of different concepts, as well as you make sure your conceptual clarity is extensive. Along with that, you give the examples as well as the case studies, right? Then make sure you structure your body that way. And the side headings. So when you're looking at the body, then make sure you have multiple side headings so that it will be easier for the corrector or the examiner to actually see what all dimensions you have actually covered, right? So this is the example I have put through. So when you're talking about the sacred grooves, so obviously you will be giving the definition of the sacred grooves. So what you can call them, what aspects you can call them, call these sacred grooves. So that you will put it in the introduction, and the different locations of the sacred grooves as well as the types of the sacred grooves. So what list do we have as of the sacred grooves, and the significance of the sacred grooves, and Indian tribes and the sacred grooves, right? So these are the different dimensions which we will be covering in the mains answer, right? So that will be your body, okay? And finally, the diagrams. So you are very well aware the diagrams are extremely important. So wherever the possibility is, so please make sure you give those diagrams, okay? So I have actually the document of different diagrams. So I'll be sharing those documents with you as well. So make sure you practice those diagrams and for everything. So if they are talking about the skull structure, and if they are talking about the comparative analysis of 2 different species, right? So definitely you will have to draw the diagrams. That is extremely important. So for physical anthropology, as we previously discussed, right? So that is extremely scoring. And when you put a diagram, so you do not have to explain more of it. And along with the diagrams, the flow charts, right? Or infographics. So these are extremely important. You design your own infographics as well as the flow charts, and you put that in your answer. So you do not have to extend your answer to too many words, because if you're just giving the description of your answer, the time might not be sufficient enough. So that's why please make sure you draw the diagrams properly. And whenever you're talking about the tribal population of India, so or distribution of the tribal population. So if you're talking about the distribution of some particular species, human species, so give that the African map, and immediately you just draw these are the locations, right? You make sure the maps or the diagrams or infographics or flow charts are thoroughly mentioned in your answer. That is extremely important. And finally, the conclusion. And when it comes to the conclusion, as you might have been already aware, so not for all answers the conclusion is important. Not for all answers conclusion will be there, right? If they are talking about the static area, you cannot just conclude it, right? So make sure to which questions the conclusion is important, and in that end area, make sure you add current events. Because when it comes to anthropology, even though we are talking about the study of the primitive societies, but the current events or the current developments or the current research, what is happening is extremely important, or current discoveries are extremely important. You have to be aware of those current discoveries and you have to put that in your answer. And for the opinion based answer questions, for the opinion based questions, you have to give your opinion based upon the strong arguments, right? So you cannot just opine something and you cannot just give the substantiative evidence for that. So your opinion has to be substantiated by a proper evidence. So that has to be given in the conclusion. So that gist you will be giving in the conclusion, as well as if they are talking about the problems. So when you're talking about the anthropology paper 2, so you'll be talking about the problems that actually comes to the tribal population or the village system or the economical status of the people. So there are varied questions which will be discussing about the problems that are there. So you will have to come up with a solution, and that solution you will be giving it in the conclusion, right? So these are the different aspects which we have, right? So please make sure you structure your answer that way, and I will make sure I will give all the answers in this particular specific format itself. Okay, so all the questions in the Word document I'll be giving, so that you can take a printout of it, or you can modify those answers as you want for your final references, right? So, and also we'll be discussing those questions as well, okay, in the coming days. So am I clear so far?
Yes, sir.
So how many of you are giving the mains? Are you planning to give the mains, or you three are giving the mains this year?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So firstly, congratulations on your success in the prelims. Even though the results haven't come, but even Gangadhar sir is very confident enough that many of you will actually clear the examination. So congratulations that you're in the actual race. So you can take my phone number. So I'll give you my phone number. If you have any queries, please put your queries to me, so we can have multiple sessions. This is my phone number, 738-202-4114. You can just drop a message, right? So whatever the queries you may have, or if you want some topic to be discussed, or if you want some conceptual understanding, or if you want diagrams in that particular area or the flowcharts in that particular area, so you can just request me. So I'll see whatever the material I have and I'll just forward it to you. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So do you have any queries as of now? Because anyway, we will be discussing. So I do not waste much of your time. So is that okay? So are you aware that the answers are to be in this particular format, or do you have any other specific format which you have designed for yourself?
No, sir. Like exactly the same way we have already.
Oh, wonderful.
But the thing is, we have covered the concept, but we we couldn't able to like get the examples from it.
I'll
Like right.
yeah.
Like for every concept, there is there is a relation with Indian tribes as well.
Yes. Exactly.
So we have to get that information.
Yeah.
And everything is clear now.
Okay. So for your difficulty, so giving the examples or interlinking of the concepts, that I will be helping you. Okay. So when we go through the test series, because I'll show the test series paper as well. So, right. So we have segregated the different topics. So based upon those topics, we will be giving the main questions in that particular area itself. So when we are discussing that area, mostly it will be covering the previous questions as well as the current issues as well. So in that, when I give the document of the model answer, so in that I will be mentioning the interlinkings as well as the examples which you have to put. Okay, that I will be helping you with. So eventually, after test by test, you will be getting to know the entire concept, as well as if there is any difficulty with that particular answer, we will be discussing. And even if I am not aware of a particular concept, you can actually tell me. I'll be referring the particular content. I'll be letting you know. That I can promise. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So fine. So please convey the message to other people also. If there are other people who wants to give the mains test series, so that if there are more people, we can get more ideas as well. We can get more examples, because we will be studying various sources. So we can pull all the knowledge together and we can make our answer better. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So we shall end the session. All the very best to you, and we shall work towards mains examination for the next few months, and we shall make sure the success shall be there. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.